Ethan Cole stood alone in the middle of everything, yet felt miles apart. The grand ballroom glittered with chandeliers and designer gowns, a sea of laughter and motion. It was a night of celebration, the city's elite gathering for a charity gala, but Ethan wasn't in the mood for smiles or small talk. Dressed in a tailored tuxedo, he looked the part, successful, composed, but inside, he was anything but. Just a year ago, he lost the love of his life. His wife had been the light of every room, the one who danced without hesitation, who brought warmth to every cold corner of Ethan's world. And now, he was here for their daughter Lily, just 8 years old and wearing her mother's necklace. It was her first formal event, one her mother had dreamed of attending with her. Ethan watched couples dance, graceful, confident, effortless. He remembered how his wife used to laugh, telling him, "Someday, you'll dance with Lily at her first gala." He always brushed it off with a chuckle, too busy, too awkward to learn. Now that day had come. But he stood frozen, his heart heavy, full of guilt for never learning, for not keeping that simple promise. Lily sat nearby, looking around the room, hopeful, patient. Ethan could barely meet her eyes. In a room full of people, with music all around, he had never felt more alone. And yet, something in him knew, this night wasn't over. Something was still waiting to unfold. Maria stood quietly in the dimly lit hallway behind the grand ballroom, her hands still in cleaning gloves, the scent of polish lingering in the air. For over 30 years, she had worked these events, sweeping up glitter, wiping away fingerprints from mirrored walls, always unseen, always in the background. But tonight felt different. Tonight, something tugged at her heart. Through a gap in the curtain, she watched the gala unfold in its dazzling elegance. The music played, the chandeliers shimmered, and wealthy guests floated across the floor. But her eyes were fixed on one corner, on little Lily, sitting alone in her party dress, a crumpled paper flower clutched in her small hand. It was meant for her father, but he hadn't noticed. Maria's ears caught a hushed conversation nearby. Ethan's assistant leaned in close to another staffer and said, "He still won't dance. Not even with Lily." Those words hit Maria like a wave. She knew what it meant to carry grief. Her own daughter, long gone, would have been Lily's age now. The pain of that absence never faded, it just quieted over time. But seeing Lily so alone, so hopeful, stirred something deep inside her. She looked down at herself, old sneakers, faded uniform, and rubber gloves. A lifetime spent staying out of sight. But tonight, her heart wouldn't let her remain invisible. Maria took a slow breath, pulled off her gloves, and stepped through the curtain, toward the music, the lights. And the little girl who just wanted to dance. The grand ballroom, moments ago filled with music and chatter, suddenly fell into a hush. All eyes turned as Maria, the cleaning lady, stepped onto the dance floor, not with a tray or mop, but holding Lily's small hand. Her presence alone silenced the room, as if kindness had entered in its purest form. Ethan froze where he stood, caught completely off guard. His polished image cracked the instant he saw them. Maria looked him in the eye, no fear, no hesitation, just quiet strength. "Mr. Cole," she said, her voice soft but clear, "your daughter's been waiting for her first dance." Ethan's throat tightened. Lily stood beside Maria, her eyes wide and shining, searching his face for an answer. The paper flower she still held trembled just slightly in her hand. I don't know how," Ethan admitted, barely above a whisper. The words felt heavy, like all the years he'd avoided moments just like this had finally caught up to him. Maria gave him a warm smile, not of pity, but of wisdom. "Then let her teach you," she said. Lily stepped forward, gently placing his hand on her small shoulder, just like her mother had once shown them. Ethan knelt slightly, heart pounding, and took her hand in his. The music resumed. A slow, gentle melody. And as they moved, awkward at first, but full of love, the room seemed to breathe again. For the first time in a long time, Ethan wasn't leading with his mind. He was dancing with his heart. At first, Ethan's steps were unsure, clumsy, hesitant. His movements were stiff, like a man trying to remember how to feel. But Lily giggled softly, looking up at him with pure joy, and something inside him shifted. He let go, not just of the fear of dancing, but of the pain he'd buried so deep. The loss, the regret, the guilt of promises left unkept, they melted away, replaced by the warmth of his daughter's hand in his. The music swelled, wrapping around them like a soft embrace. A few guests began to clap quietly, their eyes glistening. Some wiped away tears. In that moment, the grandeur of the ballroom faded. All that mattered was a father finally dancing with his daughter. Maria stood at the edge of the floor, hands clasped, watching the scene unfold. A small smile crossed her face. Her work tonight wasn't about polishing silver or clearing plates. It was about helping a broken heart find its rhythm again. As the final note of the song echoed through the hall, Ethan scooped Lily into a hug, holding her tightly as the crowd applauded. He looked around and spotted Maria slipping quietly toward the side door, her figure blending back into the shadows. He quickly crossed the floor, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you," he said, stopping her. "For reminding me what tonight was really about." Maria looked up at him with kind, weathered eyes. "Sometimes," she said gently, "the richest moments come from the poorest places." The ballroom sparkled once more, just like it had a year ago, but this time, the energy was different. Joyful. Lighter. Ethan stood in the center of the floor, laughing as he twirled Lily with ease, both of them glowing with the kind of happiness that comes from healing. Guests clapped along with the music, capturing the moment on their phones, smiling not just at the dance, but at the journey behind it. Among the crowd, dressed in a modest but elegant gown, stood Maria. No longer in her cleaning uniform, she was now an honored guest, her name printed on the invitation, her presence celebrated. She watched with pride, hands clasped, eyes full of quiet joy. As the music faded, Ethan took the stage for a brief speech. His voice carried warmth, gratitude, and reflection. "Last year, I didn't know how to dance," he said, looking out over the audience. "Not just here, but in life. I was standing still, afraid, grieving. But one woman reminded me that love doesn't need rhythm. It just needs heart." The ballroom filled with applause, loud and sincere. Afterward, Lily made her way over to Maria, her dress swishing with every step. In her hands was the same paper flower from a year ago, carefully preserved. She reached up and placed it in Maria's hands. "You made my daddy dance again," she whispered. Maria looked down at the fragile flower, her heart full. It wasn't made of gold or diamonds, but to her, it was priceless. A new tradition had begun.